Mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, dip my body
Hello. You're now tuned in to the A Little Bit a Lot podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and welcome back to another episode. Oh, guys, this has been a heavy week. Okay, we had the election last week, didn't get the results that we wanted. It's been rough. You know what I'm saying? It's really been a rough time, but I'm so glad that there's so many different resources out there that, reassure us that we can continue to keep fighting. And at the end of the day, like, the world didn't end the first time that orange Cheeto Puff won. And I don't think it's going to end this time, So it's really difficult, but like we're pushing through, you know what I mean? I've had a headache every single day for the past like 4 days. But it's his life, right? Like we're pushing through, we're trying, we're persevering, and that's all that matters, feeling a little burnt out from work. But I think that just comes with the end of the year, you know what I'm saying? Q4, you're like, I'm ready for the holidays. I'm ready to have this PTO. Like, God, please, you know what I mean? Then on top of that, I felt like for this week, I wanted to talk about change because I had a little moment, with my therapist where she basically was like, we need to discuss your fear of change soon. And I'm just like, ooh, like clocked me, like clock that, So I felt like I'd already been kind of wanting to talk about it for a while on the pod as it was, but then like with my therapist, like bringing it up and like being like, no, like, this is a problem that you have. I'm just like, yeah, like let's get into it. Yeah, no, Doja Cat. So we're going to talk about that. I did a little bit of research, looking into, what goes behind the fear of change, like what fuels it, and finding different ways that not only I can cope with the fear of change, but like ways that can help you guys as well, because like if I'm on the struggle bus when it comes to change, I'm pretty sure like, other people in my audience suffer from that as well. So it's like we're all in this together, no High School Musical. Like I want this to be a safe space for discussion, and I don't always want it to just be like all positive, like there are some struggles that are very real that come with change. And I know that it like stems basically from my mom. Like she doesn't really do well with change as well. And I have quite a few changes that are coming up. My lease is over in February and I'm planning on moving, and like that's been a little bit stressful because I am constantly paranoid at the fact that what if I leave this apartment that I hate and then sign a lease for a year with another apartment that I also hate? Like I'm so scared of getting stuck in another situation that's like awful for me. So I kind of want to get into that as well. There's just a couple of things that like I personally deal with that I want to tie into all of this as well and see like maybe if you guys struggle with the same thing too. So like, yeah, but before we get into it, you guys already know the drill. If you're not new here, make sure you give this video a like if you're watching on YouTube. Comment down below to let me know what you think about the topics. Do you struggle with the fear of change, etc.? And make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button. I'm almost on my road to my first 700 subscribers, which is crazy to say. So go ahead and click that subscribe button. Turn those post notifications on so that way you're keeping up to date with every new episode. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, thank you. Go ahead and rate that 5 stars. Leave that review to let me know what you think about the show. So yeah, I also realized I wanted to give you guys some updates from last week's episode. I remember I was talking about the possibility of having like an Amazon storefront or something like that, and I got approved. So I'm now an Amazon influencer, which is really cool. So now I have the ability to have a storefront. So if you guys follow my coloring account at Coloring with Kristen, you'll see that I use so many different type of books, coloring books that are out there, different materials with different markers. I was discussing that they have like the skin tone sets, but then they have pastels, all this other kind of stuff. So like any video that you see on my coloring account or like my coloring YouTube channel, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube with my coloring content. I wanted to be able to have like a one-stop shop so that way you guys can get the books that I have, get the supplies that I have, because I get tons of questions, especially when I'm on TikTok live, like the entire time, of people being like, what markers are you using? What book is that? What markers are you using? What book is that? And I'm constantly having to repeat myself, which I don't mind. But now it's good to be able to like say, oh, you could just go to the link in my bio. It's on my Amazon storefront. And of course, I do earn a little bit of commission. So anything you purchase is going to help me make more content for you guys. I really hope that you are enjoying the coloring content as well. So like I discussed before, it's fun to be able to have both now. I enjoy podcasting. I enjoy making the coloring content. And on my Amazon storefront, I also have like different things that I use for making content, like my microphone stand, like my ring light, stuff like that. So it's not only just like coloring stuff that's on there, but like anything that I have that helps me with my content is linked on there as well. And I also now have like a wish list that I made, that I registered. So if you guys want to support my coloring account, so that way I can continue to keep making fun videos for you guys, and there's a wish list on there of different books and supplies that I would like. So you can go ahead and check that out. I'm going to make sure that I link it in the description on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, so you can see my wish list, you can see my Amazon storefront, and show love. So just wanted to make sure that I let you guys know and update that that is an option that I have now. So yeah, so let's get into it. When it comes to change, I also got on Instagram at A Little Bit of Live Podcast, and I asked you guys a couple questions on my story just to get a gauge of like where you guys are at when it comes to change. And I asked, are you someone who embraces change, or do you prefer stability? And 58% of you said stability. So that's really interesting to see. And I also asked, do you procrastinate when it comes to making changes in your life? Because I do. And 86% said yes. So it really seems like for the most part, like we are kind of all in this together, like I said. So when it came to looking at the fear of change, I found that there's actually a word for that, and it's called metathesiophobia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that is the technical name of the fear of change. And it really is a very real and like common experience, especially in this world that's always shifting. And the fear can stem from wanting to keep life consistent and predictable because that's what feels safer. And I totally agree. Like I lean into feeling that safety and feeling that like sense of routine. And anytime that there is a shift in life that isn't going along with the predictability of like my routine, like that does shake me up a little bit. So I also wanted to look up like what are some signs that you might fear change, and a few different examples that might show that you have a fear of change is you feel anxiety, like I said, when your routine changes, you're worried about the future, you're avoiding new experiences, or you're procrastinating to make changes or do certain things that will help you advance because you'd rather just stay comfortable. You also might even have like physical symptoms like stomach aches or insomnia. Like this is such an important thing, and I feel like more people need to talk about when it comes to like the physical effects of anxiety and fear, and just being worried about the future. Like there are so many times where I do personally suffer from the insomnia, thinking about like what's next, what's coming up, different things that I'm really worried about, and I hate the feeling of uncertainty. Like that makes me feel so uncomfortable, and I wish that there was a way that I could like know for sure exactly the outcome of what's going to happen, because I feel like I always need to have like that control over every single aspect of my life. But I know that that's not possible, that's unrealistic. But unfortunately, like that is something that I feel. And I also wondered, like, why does change feel so scary in general? And I think that it's just because like our brains just naturally like what feels familiar, because it's a survival instinct. Like past experiences might make you hesitant when it comes to change if those past experiences didn't go well. But at the end of the day, I think that it's important to acknowledge the fact that you can reframe these thoughts and help your brain trust the future and help your brain trust your intuition and your instincts and make you feel safe in the choices that you make. And that's something that I often have to work on with my therapist. Like we do different things like EMDR, which is a different type of therapy that really helps me, like I said, reframe my thoughts and help my brain trust myself and my decisions in the future, like I mentioned. And there's like an example of like reframing that I've done with like my relationship with, I had my ankle injury. I talked about this early on in like season 1 of the episode of the what episode of the podcast, where I was in Chicago and I was like not paying attention to what I was doing, stepped out from leaving this cafe, didn't realize that there was a step down and I wasn't watching my step, and then twisted my ankle and had like a severe ankle sprain and had to do physical therapy, the whole 9 yards. And like here we are a year later and like my ankle is still not like 100%, which like partially that's due to me because I haven't been keeping up with like my exercises and stuff like that and like strengthening those muscles. But for some reason, like I was just so hard on myself when it came to that accident, because not only was twisting my ankle like sucky, I'd never had like an injury that severe and that painful to the point where I'm like, dang, do I need to go to urgent care? And when I came back home, I did end up having to go to urgent care, get the exams, like x-ray, MRI and all that. And it was rough. But then on top of that, like the entire scenario in general, like I discussed before, was just like embarrassing, because then when I fell, I proceeded to like waste my drinks all over myself. So then like my shirt was soaked, pants were soaked, like down to underwear tings, and that was like so embarrassing. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I feel so dumb. I feel so stupid. Like here I am just being overly excited, not watching where I'm going. Like, why am I so clumsy? And just like really being hard on myself and like blaming myself for an accident. And it's like, girl, it's an accident. And that was something that I had to like reframe my relationship with of the scenario in therapy, because every single time I think about that memory, it would like physically get me uncomfortable, So having to like reframe this scenario and be like, if that was like 6-year-old you and you saw her fall, from an accident, like, would you call her stupid? Like, would you blame her? Would you call her dumb? Like, no, like, it's just an accident. You were in a new environment with like a new scenario, scenery. Like, you were excited, you were on a trip and having fun. So naturally, you're going to be like looking around and have wonder and excitement and not all the way paying attention to what you're doing. And like, that's okay. So I really do think that reframing how you feel about certain events in the past, or even the way that you think about the future, is possible, because now my relationship like with those feelings from that event is a lot more positive now. And it's like I'm able to give myself more grace, if that makes sense. So if you haven't tried to have like reframing redirection type of like sessions, with your therapist. If you have one, like I highly recommend like trying to tap into that, because it can really help you cope with the negative feelings that are associated with certain things, Once you work on trying to reframe like your feelings with the change, then facing change can ultimately lead to growth. Like embracing changes can open doors to new relationships, career growth, self-discovery, And I think that that was something that I felt really uncomfortable with, especially when it came to like the self-discovery aspect. And this podcast alone has like helped me tap into being okay with figuring out, like not being afraid to lean into who am I, what do I want for myself, what do certain things in the future, like my plans, what do those look like and what do I want them to look like? And it also has like led to new relationships with me having new friends and, the podcasting space and getting into coloring and being able to have mutuals who are now like a safe space in a community that I know that I can trust. So if I would have continued to be afraid of change in like that aspect and not put myself out there, then I would have never had, like I said, the friends that I have now and the growth within my podcasting career, just like content creation journey, period. At the end of the day, I feel like it builds resilience, it makes you more adaptable, and it can help like improve your decision making skills when it comes to facing change. Because if you continuously like avoid it, then it's like you're kind of going against nature, right? Like naturally, you are supposed to be able to want to progress. You are supposed to be able to want to change, and being able to be adaptable is also, I feel like, an important survival skill that I feel like you should have, and different ways that are out there for you to be able to be more comfortable with embracing change, like I said, is being able to have like a growth mindset, right? Like look at your past challenges, like I've said with my past challenges, and once you see, okay, I was able to overcome this situation, you can now say, okay, I have proof that I am adaptable. I have proof that I can be okay with going through a change, making it through, sticking to it, and seeing it through to the other side. That is one thing that I feel like helps me so much when it comes to like my therapy in general, is looking at the facts and being able to say, okay, there is proof that I can do this. I'm capable of doing hard things. Because in the moment, I feel like I'm always just being like, no, there's no way that I'm going to be able to survive this period of growth. Like, because it can be hard. There's some growing pains. There's some eras of change that are incredibly, incredibly difficult and uncomfortable. And you feel like there's no way that I can make it through. But then every time I look at previous experiences and I look at my growth mindset and have facts of, okay, this time, and this time, you were able to push through, like that is so comforting. So I feel like being able to be open to being more reflective and looking at your past and saying, okay, this is proof I can do this, is a really good way to help overcome your fear of change as well. And like I said, mindfulness, that all kind of ties in with that too. Using mindfulness practices to stay present and grounded in the moment of anxiety. That's really important for me, and that what has helped me feel a little bit more comfortable. You can get so caught in thinking about, like I said, the future, the what ifs, but it's like stressing is not going to change what's to come, right? Only action can change that. Like anxiety is not going to change it. So, focusing on staying in the moment and being present, like that's going to be the most beneficial for you. And I've always talked about this before, but like journaling your feelings, that is definitely a way that's going to help you embrace change, because you can write down your thoughts and then it can help you process them and clarify, how do I feel about this season of change, or this, these growing pains and this growth era that I'm currently experiencing. And you also want to be able to like build a support system, talk to people who've also faced change, and just remember that at the end of the day, like, you're not alone. You've done it. Your support people in your support system have done it. Go back and forth and talk about, how did you feel when you went through that? How do you feel now that you made it on the other side? And being able to have like that camaraderie in that moment is something that's like so validating as well. And of course, the biggest thing that I feel like helps me with embracing change, like overall, is just seeking professional help, having my therapist to help me like unpack, manage my fears of change and everything like that. And also like managing my stress and engaging in activities that help me stay grounded, like coloring, like I always say, reading, playing my Switch, things like that. That's really, really important as well. I think like also another big example that I have with like my fear of change came to like my doctors, like for the longest time when it came to my doctors, I traditionally keep like the same roster of doctors on deck because of my mom. So like when I was young and my mom was like in charge of like my health care and finding my doctors, and like I was still in her insurance, she had my childhood doctor. And then like once I turned of age, like 18, then I went to like a new primary. And I have been with that same primary physician. I'm 28 now. Like I said, since I was 18, I think. And I had a lot of issues when it came to my primary doctor. And same thing with like my OBGYN. There's two different issues that I have with like both of them. Like, let's get into it when it comes to like my OBGYN. I feel like with my OB, I feel like she was just a little bit too comfortable. Like, because she knew me for such a long time and like literally watched me grow up. These are doctors that are also like my mom's doctors. And that even ties into like going to like the hairstylist that my mom was going to. You know what I mean? Like, this all stems from like going with what's comfortable. Like her being like, okay, well, this is who does my hair, so this is who's going to do your hair. This is the doctor I see, so this is going to be the doctor that you see when you become of age. And so like when it came to seeing my gynecologist, because she's known my mom for so long, whenever I would go and it would like just be me, she would always like ask about my mom. And then it started getting a little bit uncomfortable because then she would like ask about my mom's boyfriends and this, that, and the other. And it's just like, girl, like, I'm here to get my pap smear and I don't want to talk about my mom's boyfriend right now, like the freak. On top of that, I feel like she didn't really take like different things that I would have, like concerns that I would have, seriously. And she just had like too much of like a jokey personality for me. Like, girl, I have this issue, this concern, and all you want to do is like talk about my mom and this, that, and the other, and joke, har, because, we go way back. And it's like, no, I'm going to need you to lock in, be serious, and like make me feel like you're actually listening to me and like actually listening to my concerns, the freak. And I feel like she just wasn't giving me that, And I just found myself like doing a whole bunch of fake laughing every single time I was around her. And then on top of that, it was like irritating because her office like takes 1,001 years for their appointments. Like, I would literally pull up to my appointment and it would take her an hour just to call me back. And then I go back and then I leave and I barely feel like I'm supported or heard when it comes to the issues that I have. And then you want to charge an arm and a leg for a copay. Like, girl, that's out. So now I'm suffering and not getting the care that I should be getting because I don't like the circumstances that come with going to see her. And it was the same thing with like my primary doctor. Like, I was doing so bad at keeping up with my physicals and like going in there because like, one, I would always feel super uncomfortable because the doctor's office at my old primary would have like hella old people. And like, that's no shade, no tea to like the elderly folks. But it's like, girl, why am I the youngest person in here? You know? So then there was like an age disconnect between me and my primary because he was so freaking old. And I'm like one of the youngest people that he sees. So I feel like he especially wouldn't take like any of the things that I'm saying seriously, which was like insulting because like I quite literally have a degree in health science. You know, I have a full on associate's degree in health science, and I'm a certified professional coder. So a lot of the things that you do, I quite literally know how to code and have to like have a basic understanding of. And I have to, especially given the fact that like I'm a CPC. So there's different like certifications where like somebody could be certified in just radiology or, you know, just like this, but like mine is overall health. So I pretty much know a lot of things that there's to know about like general health of the body. So for me to pull up and for you to like dismiss a lot of the things that I'm bringing up and acting like I'm a freaking idiot is really disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like the freak, like I may be young, but I do know what I'm talking about because I quite literally am degree down and certified in what I'm telling you, you know? So that was frustrating. Then on top of that, like the office staff was like never really that nice. Those ladies act like they do not want to be there, and they act like I'm a bother every single time I call, every single time I go up there. The nurse that brings you back and like does like the initial questions and stuff like that, she wasn't really that pleasant. And then when I would finally see the doctor and he would come in, I feel like he was always just like rushing through my appointments, didn't really want to listen to what I had going on. And then on top of that, like there was like one big concern that I had that was a big part of my health that he like quite literally refused to help me with and was like trying to refer me to somebody else. But then that would have meant that I would have to like temporarily switch my primary to that doctor and then switch back again. And I'm like, dude, because you don't believe in the specific thing that I'm trying to get help with, you're like, no, can do, can't help you with that. Go temporarily get a new primary. I personally feel like that's extra. I shouldn't have to come to you with a concern and then you always want to just push it off onto somebody and I gotta do a switch to a whole new primary and this, that, and the other. It's like, guys, it was a lot dealing with not only, like I said, the gynecologist, but like this primary dude. Like he just was not cutting it for me. Like seriously, half of the things that were going on, the medications he was trying to give me, I'm like, I'm not understanding. Why are you giving me this? You know, you're not helping me feel like I'm leaving here with like an understanding of why I'm taking this, what's going on with me, yada, yada, yada. And then, like I said, half of the concerns that I would have, like, he quite literally, like, would never want to address and was just so focused on, like, one thing. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's the issue. I really want to help with this. And he's like, no. So I say all of this to say that, like, I was not satisfied with the doctors that my mom had me going to, that she went to. And it was the same thing with like my hairstylist at the time. Like this person had done my granny's hair, done my mom's hair, and then proceeded to do my hair. So they were just so old school. Anytime I would want some type of new style, like they would literally panic and like would be afraid of evolving and changing to accommodate like younger hairstyles and like new techniques and stuff. Like, girl, you just want to do your same old, and you can't even give me box braids. So it's kind of just like I realized that at this point that I had been settling, you know, I had been settling and just dealing with the hairstylist, dealing with the gynecologist, dealing with the primary because I felt like, well, I'd rather just stick to what I know, stick to what's comfortable instead of actually getting up and like doing something about it. And then on top of that, I feel like I was also like influenced by my mom, you know, because she doesn't like change and because she still sees these people, she felt like, well, I should just deal with it because at the end of the day, like I said, it's what we know. Then it was like, well, if you switch to another doctor, then they're going to be at a different hospital than the hospital I work at, and I won't be able to, and it's like, okay, so what? It's not the end of the world. So then I felt like I shouldn't make the changes in my hairstylist or my gynecologist or my primary because like my mom didn't want me to either. But it's like at the end of the day, if these people are not benefiting me and they're not providing me with what I need, then what is the point of continuously sticking around? So that's when I ultimately, like in 2020, I told you guys I did my big chop and I decided to go natural because I did not want to keep seeing my hairstylist at the time. I'm like, we just can't keep doing this. I have to break this relationship up. I cannot continue to keep seeing you. I cannot keep being your client. You're not satisfying any of my hair care needs. And then I found a new stylist who specializes in natural hair and it's been up and it's stuck since then. So we're locked in. And the same thing went with my primary. Finally, in the last few months, I was just like, I do not want to keep going back to this guy. So I really need to take the time to like research a new doctor and figure this out. So it took me a while because like I said, I did procrastinate on it. But ultimately, I'm glad that I decided to like really sit down and like do the research and look up different doctors. And I found one that I felt like was a good fit for me. One, she's a woman, like no shade, no tea to male doctors, but now that I'm like older, I just feel like I'm a lot more comfortable with female doctors. And then on top of that, like she's young. I swear when I saw this doctor, she seemed like she was like around my age. I didn't want to be like, hey, how old are you? Because I'm like, is that appropriate? Like, I don't know. But like, I swear she looks like she's my age. Maybe she's a little bit older. She's just one of those people that's older that looks young. But she's younger. And I was like, okay, this seems like this will be good. And even though she's like with a completely different hospital, I felt like at the end of the day, like after we ball, like why not take the risk? And I think that one thing that helped me feel more confident like in my decision with moving as well was the fact that like my therapist was like telling me that like ultimately like you don't have to keep feeling like you have to be stuck with these people for so long. Like if you try a new doctor and you don't like them, like you can switch it again. Like in my mind, I was just thinking like I gotta make a decision that's gonna be like my forever doctor. My forever stylist, my forever gynecologist. Like, same thing with my apartment. I gotta find something that's gonna be my forever home, my forever apartment. And it's like, no, that's not the tea. Like, I can sign a lease, and if I don't like it, I can move again after the lease is over. I don't have to continuously be stuck. So, for some reason, I just always felt like because I've been stuck with these same situations for so long, and that's what my mom is used to and doesn't like when we switch it up, and it's uncomfortable when we switch it up, that naturally made me feel like I gotta just be like that. But it's like, no, like I can move on if I'm not happy with what's going on. And that was like such a revolutionary moment for me, you know what I mean? So once I made it to the doctor's appointment, I missed the first one because I was like scared, but like that's neither here nor there. Finally made it to the appointment. And my new primary is like so much better, guys. Like, first of all, the office is nicer. With my old primary, that doctor's office was literally like giving 1950s, like it smelled like old people. Again, no shade, no tea, but like, y'all, if you know the old people smell, if you know, you know. It was like crusty, dimly lit, sad. This office, bright, cute decorations, younger office workers. The employees were younger. The employees were nice. Filled out my paperwork. Go to the back. The nurse called me. This nurse was so much nicer than my previous primary's nurse. Then on top of that, we talk, we chat. She gets my information. She's like, oh, I like your earrings. Cute, right? Right. I'm like, ooh, I'm getting compliments in here. You don't look like you hate my guts the way my previous nurse would make me feel. Once I'm done with the nurse, she's like, okay, the doctor's coming in soon. She'll be coming to see you. And then she's like, it was nice to meet you. Wow, that's so sweet. It's nice to meet me. Like, now it's just at the point where it's like every little good thing that's happening, I'm just like, yep, this is exactly why I did what I did, you know? I'm like, okay, period. It's nice to meet you too. Like, what? Like, I just thought that was so cute. Doctor comes in, meet the new doctor. And mind you, this isn't like a physical, it's just like a meet and greet, I guess. So, like, we get acquainted with each other. She gets all my basic information and she's like, okay, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. And then when we're done, like, you can ask me some questions. Wow, my previous doctor barely wanted to open the floor to any of my concerns. He just wanted to go talk about what he got to talk about and get the freck. And I'd have to be like, wait, and like feel like I have to hurry up and try to like say what I need to say. This doctor immediately was like, we will make time for your concerns once I'm done, getting the information I need from you. Period. So me and the new doctor, we're getting to the gags, chat, talk. Once we're done, she's like, okay, is there anything that you want to ask me? I was able to like fully take my time, address this, and this, talk about this, that, and the other. Hey, how do you feel about this? Because my previous doctor didn't help me with this. They didn't help me with that. They didn't help me with that. Girl, when I tell you, she was like, yup. And my white tea, like, she was really, really so helpful. And it got to the point where I almost like felt like a little bit emotional like during the appointment, because I'm like, whoa, like, is this what this feels like to have a doctor that like genuinely is not trying to rush up out of here and is like ready, wanting to make sure that they address every single concern that I have and make sure that like I'm letting you know I'm here for you, So it got to the point where like even at the end of the appointment, I was just like, I just want to thank you so much for like being so attentive, listening to my concerns. Like, just overall, you seem like a great doctor. I'm so glad that I'm now your patient, because I have a little bit of doctor trauma. Like, my previous doctors like did not really listen to me, and she was just like, oh my gosh, no, like that's what we're here for. Like, it's supposed to be like a two-way street. Like, I help you, so like you help me so how I can help you, like we're locked in, ain't no switching up, period. Then on top of that, this doctor was like, oh yeah, and then when you get your physical, you come back and get your physical, you can also get your pap smear. Wow, you guys do pap smears in office? I don't have to go to my gynecologist to get that done? It's just an all-in-one stop shop, like, period. So that went really well. So going forward, I still need to find a new gynecologist, but one step at a time, right? No need to rush. Where's the Jordan Sparks? Like, we're taking it one step at a time, because I feel like the second that I try to be like, okay, I got to get my life together and do this, and this, then I get overwhelmed. So yeah. And she like wrote my scripts. It was immediately ready at my local pharmacy. Like, she is on point. She's quick with it. She's prompt. She's proper. Then once I left, she was like, okay, it was nice meeting you. I'm like, oh my God, it was nice meeting you too. And she was like, oh, by the way, I also love your earrings. 2 earring compliments. Wow, you guys are really, really nice in here. I leave, I go to check out, I go to the desk. The lady's like, okay, she wants to see you on this day. You make your follow-up appointment. And she's like, oh my gosh, it smells so good. Like, what are you wearing? And I'm like, oh, this is a Bath and Body Works sanitizer. She's like, wow, that smells really good. I can't believe it's a sanitizer. I thought it was a perfume. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, at the end of the day, like, the people in this office were like so much more personable. Like, it really feels like you guys are humans in here and not freaking robots. And that really just made like such a big difference. And I felt so proud of myself. I'm like, wow, like, look at me taking charge of change and taking the step to build and be in charge of the new direction of care that I want for myself. Like, it felt like such a good thing. And in the end, like, my mom was just like, wow, like, well, I'm glad it worked out. And I'm like, yeah, no thanks to you. Love you, Mom. But like, if I would have listened to you, I would still be miserable dealing with the doctors that I don't care for, and frankly didn't think that they really cared much for me. So overall, I say all this to say, like, do not be afraid to do something about something that you feel like needs to be done. Like, that change was really scary for me because I'm like, okay, what if I go to this doctor and like hate her too? But like I said, the therapist was like, listen, if you don't like it, you are in charge of moving on. You can move on and you can move on and keep trying to figure it out until you find something that sticks. So don't be afraid, because ultimately, like, there are good things that come out on the other side, especially when you take the time to really think about it and say, what feels right for me? What do I feel like is going to be the best for me? And even if it didn't work out, and I didn't really like her, I think I still would have been happy that I at least tried, and then been like, okay, well, back to square one, let's figure this out, and just happy at the fact that, like, I'm at least trying. That feels better than knowing that I was sitting around like doing nothing and not being like proactive and making changes and choices that are going to benefit me in the long run. So yeah, make sure you guys stand up for yourselves. Don't be afraid to make those choices and those decisions, because ultimately you do need change to help you evolve and help you grow, and growth is good. I'm finding that out now, in 2024. Hashtag growth is good, and that's on period. So yes, that's just my little experience and my little struggles that I've been dealing with when it comes to change. Like, I'm still really scared about what's to come with like my new apartment. I am going on a tour tomorrow for a new apartment, but like, I'm also kind of worried about that too, because like, when I called to schedule the appointment, I originally talked to this lady in the office in like August. And I'm like, I'm really interested in this apartment. My lease is up in February, and I know that's like a little ways away, but like, I'd like to schedule a tour just so I can see what's going on. And when the time comes closer to my lease being up, then I can know like, okay, this is my number one contender. This is my number two. Like, I want to be able to like tour the places ahead of time, so that way I can know which my plan A, B, or C is. Like, I want to be able to have at least like 3 top potential places, just in case like one of them doesn't work out. But she was like, well, we don't have like an apartment available for you to tour right now. Like, we're renovating and some other people just moved out or something. And then she's like, and plus, like, I don't even know what we're going to have available in February. And I'm like, okay, does that matter? I still want to tour the place, like, the freak, like, huh? But she was like, well, we don't have anything, to show you right now. So like, I'll call you back like in a couple months. So I'm like, okay, period. And then here comes November, and I'm like, okay, the time is coming closer. Like, one of the other apartments that I talked to told me that I should start like applying for places around like late November, early December. So I'm like, let me call these people back. Call her back, and she's like, oh yeah, I remember I talked to you in August. And she's like, okay, we do have some places to tour right now. But again, like, I don't know what we're going to have in February. I don't give a dang. Do I look like I'm coming to you, asking you to know what you're going to have available in February, babes? I just want to see the place. So then when February comes, I can know if I want to even F with y'all or not. Like, something about that really irritated me, where it almost just felt like you don't want me to come see. Like, you don't want me to be bothered, and like, it feels like you think, oh, well, there's no point. And it's like, no, I feel like there is a point. If I want to tour now, I want to tour now. If I don't want to wait until February to tour, I don't want to wait until February to tour. And then she's like, okay, well, if you do a tour now, then like, it's not going to be like the unit that you would eventually get if you do move here. I'm not freaking stupid. Kelly is her name. I'm not stupid, Kelly. I understand full well that if it's November and I'm touring your apartment complex, that I'm more than likely not going to be seeing my unit. But I'd like a tour now And when February comes, if I do decide to move here, I will then do another tour of my unit then. Like, girl, sue me for being like proactive, ahead of the game. You know what I'm saying? Getting my ducks in a row, my options together a couple months in advance. The freak. Like, let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify. Like, would you feel some type of way about Kelly? So then it's kind of got me being like, dang, like, do I even want to mess with this apartment complex? Because I just feel like I'm not really having like the best impression of the office. Because like, why does it feel like you're just constantly trying not to see me? And like, you like, do you want money? Do you want people to move in or not? The freak. So we will see what happens when me and Juwan tour the place tomorrow. But I do at the end of the day feel like somewhat good about this place, regardless of like my conversation with this Kelly lady, because this specific apartment I used to live in like before my parents got a divorce. Like, we lived in a house, we moved out of that house, and then we lived in this apartment for like a couple of years. And then once my parents got a divorce, then we moved in with my granny for a little bit. So I remember this place vividly because I was like in middle school when we lived there for the couple of years that we lived there. But I'm going to try not to stress about it too much, you know. Time will come. I'm sure we will find the place that's right for us. And if we move and I still hate it, then I don't have to be stuck there forever, you know? So I'll let you guys know how that goes over the next couple of months with this journey for sure. But yeah, so like I said at the beginning of the episode, if you're watching on YouTube, give this video a like, comment down below to let me know what you thought about the episode. Subscribe, turn those post notifications on. Listening on Spotify, Apple, rate that 5 stars, leave a review to let me know what you think about the show. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Cause I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with y'all.